My sister used my name when she went out to save someone. So when Xie An came to propose marriage, he asked for me by name. When the wedding veil was lifted, I did not catch the flash of astonishment in his eyes. Though the marriage was not what he wanted, he treated me with polite respect for a lifetime. Later, when my sister became a widow and returned to her maiden home, Xie An helped her many times. It was then that I realized he had always wanted to marry her. It was just a past longing, he said. Now that we are each married, I only regard her as a younger sister. When Xie An confessed this to me in person, his face was calm and indifferent. But in his old age, Xie An had long since lost his wits. He forgot me, his wife, and forgot our children. Every day when he woke up, he would run to my maiden home, sit on the stone steps in front of the gate, and call out my late sister's pet name, Nian. I could not explain to our children who came rushing over. I could only say he was talking nonsense. After coaxing Xie An home once again, I fell into a tired sleep. When I woke up, I had returned to the day Xie An came to propose marriage. Welcome to listen to the ancient Chinese romance story. I'm the blogger and I'm Whispers of Phoenix. Now let's start the main story. Just as I was rushing to the main hall to tell the truth, I found that Xie An had not arrived. Sister, what are you bringing me here for? My sister Suzy pulled her hand away from mine in confusion. I looked at the empty hall, my mind wandering. At this time in my previous life, Father had already been chatting happily with Xie An, and when I learned Xie An had come to propose to me, I had been hiding far away, peeking with curiosity and fear. I was afraid he would be an ugly man, and afraid he would have a bad character. But what met my eyes was a tall, straight figure, with regular features and refined speech. Then I heard how Father addressed Xie An, and realized he was the prince who had come from the capital to take office here. At that time I was filled with joy too. Nothing, I said. I just wanted to sit here for a while. I've been cooped up in my room all day and feel stuffy. I wanted to come here with you to get some fresh air. Pulling my thoughts back, I quickly made up an excuse to prevaricate with Xie. Every corner of this mansion is boring. How come you only just noticed? It's fun outside. Why don't we go out for a stroll? If you come with me, Father will never scold me. I smiled helplessly. We can go another time, but not today. As soon as the words left my mouth, there was a noise at the gate. I saw the steward hurrying off to fetch Father. Sister, look. Who could it be? Arriving with such a big fanfare. Xie loved lively scenes. She stood on tiptoes to look toward the gate. Following her gaze, I saw Xie An. He had come after all. Just like in my previous life, he arrived with a group of people carrying boxes of gifts. Seeing that Father had not yet come out, I took Xie's hand and walked forward. Sister, where are we going? Xie asked. A distinguished guest has arrived, and Father is not here yet. We should go greet him first. We must not be rude. But when Xie clearly saw Xie An's face, she stepped back. Sister, Father said that since we are not yet married, it is inappropriate for us to meet men from outside the family. With that, she slipped her hand out of mine when I was not looking and ran away. Sigh. I watched her retreating figure and let out a long sigh. Turning back, I found Xie An looking straight at me. With Xie gone, it would be the same if I clarified my name to him. I stepped forward and saluted Xie An. This humble woman Su Xinyue greets your highness. May I ask the purpose of your visit today? The man before me overlapped with the aged version in my memories. A bitter, stinging feeling welled up in my chest, overwhelming me. I lowered my head and eyes, hiding all the inappropriate emotions. You must be the eldest daughter of Prefect Su. He nodded. As rumored, you are indeed dignified and well-mannered. There was no trace of surprise in his eyes, unlike in my previous life. In my previous life, when he lifted the wedding veil, most of the flush of joy on his face was chased away by surprise. That night, he used drunkenness as an excuse and did not touch me. At that time I believed him. But now I could see clearly. Xie An, like me, had been reborn too. Though he was a little late, he still found the Su mansion. Just like in his confused old age, he remembered the way to the Su mansion and remembered Xie's pet name. Why didn't your highness send word of your visit in advance? I have been remiss in my hospitality. Father and the steward stepped forward, squeezing me to the back. You may step down. father said, glancing back at me with an unquestionable tone. I will handle things here with His Highness. In his eyes, women should always know their place and behave with propriety. I answered softly and turned to leave. Behind me came Xie An's clear, resonant voice. I have come today bearing gifts to thank the second young lady for saving my life a few days ago. That day before I reached Jingzhou, I was betrayed by my guards and nearly lost my life. It was all thanks to the second young lady who saved me. I could not hear any more. But I had heard Xie An tell the story of how Xie saved him in my previous life. It was when I questioned his feelings for Xie that he told me this story as part of his explanation for the case of mistaken identity. At that time, although Xie An and his loyal guards had killed the traitors, both sides had suffered heavy losses. Xie An in particular had been stabbed in the abdomen by a traitor, losing so much blood that he was on the verge of death. It was Xie and Lu Qi who passed by, bandaged his wound and applied medicine in time, saving his life. Xie was afraid of being punished by father, so every time she went out she used my name. And her childhood sweetheart Lu Qi pretended to be her servant. Pulling myself out of the memories, I suddenly remembered that in this life, Xie An had not brought a matchmaker with him. Just now he had said he came to offer thanks with gifts, not to propose marriage. I turned back abruptly and saw him chatting happily with father, just like in my previous life. Xie An's words from his past life echoed in my ears. It was just a past longing. Now that we are each married, I only regard her as a younger sister. But I had forgotten the next sentence he said. Besides, she has no feelings for me either. My sister Suzy, though free-spirited, loved with all her heart and soul. After Lu Qi died in my previous life, she never remarried. So it was not that Xie An did not want to marry her. It was that Xie did not want to marry him. That was why, in this life, he did not propose marriage but came to the mansion to pay a visit instead. But none of this had anything to do with me anymore. Sister, what did that Xie An come here for? Xie suddenly appeared, startling me. How do you know his name is Xie An? I asked her, then added with mock irritation. You have met Xie An before, haven't you? Xie nodded timidly. I met him a month ago when I went out with Lu Qi. He was covered in blood then. Both Lu Qi and I thought we couldn't just stand by and let him die. You know father doesn't like Lu Qi. I didn't dare to use my own name. My tone softened. He knows you are not Su Xinyue now. He came here specially today to thank you for saving his life that day. Xie An is of noble status. I think father will not blame you. I comforted Xie. She sighed in relief. That's a relief. I only found out today that this Xie An is actually a prince from the capital. If I had known earlier, when he said he wanted to repay me for saving his life, I should have asked him to help me. Convince father to let me marry Lu Qi. A hint of regret flickered in Xie's eyes. My hand resting on her shoulder suddenly froze. In both my previous life and this one, when Xie An came to visit, he only mentioned Xie. He never once mentioned Lu Qi's name. Sister, do you want to go out for some fresh air? There's a show at the night market today. I already asked Lu Qi to go early to save us seats. Shall we go together? Xie's voice pulled me back to reality. On this day in my previous life, I had lain in bed full of joy, tossing and turning, unable to fall asleep. Since childhood, I had obeyed father's teachings, staying in the inner quarters to manage all the affairs of the mansion, learning poetry, calligraphy, painting and music, strictly abiding by the 3 obediences and 4 virtues. After getting married in my previous life, I was trapped in the inner quarters like all noble ladies, bearing children and raising them. When I grew old and my children got married, I still had to take care of the confused Xie An, afraid he would get lost, afraid he would say the wrong things. I had spent my whole life busily toiling away, only to end up with nothing to show for it. Sure, I agreed with a smile, watching Xie circle around me happily. With sister here, it will be so much easier to go out. Father never stopped me from going out. But it was different for Xie. Father did not like Lu Qi because he was just a wandering physician. Though he was highly skilled in medicine and handsome in appearance, his family background was not good enough to match Xie. In my previous life, Xie was so determined to marry Lu Qi that she threatened to take her own life. Fearing that Xie would do something even more drastic and ruin his reputation, father had no choice but to agree to the marriage. But their happiness was short-lived. In the second year after their marriage, a plague swept through Jingzhou. Lu Qi worked day and night to save people, distributing his medicinal herbs first to the critically ill commoners, but in doing so, he missed his own chance of survival. By the time the last needed medicinal herb was delivered, he had already passed away. I still remember clearly that at that time I was pregnant and did not dare to go out. But Xie An rushed to the plague-stricken area without caring for his own life. I tried to persuade him, tried to stop him. At that time he said, "This is my fiefdom. I will live and die with my people. If even a simple physician like Lu Qi understands this principle, should I, a dignified prince, cower in fear and cling to my life?" After that, I never opposed him again. When Lu Qi passed away, to prevent the plague from spreading further, all those who died from the plague had to be cremated. At that time the person who stayed by Zi's side was Xie An. Before Zi could return to the Su mansion, she had to stay elsewhere first to be observed for any signs of infection. It was also Xie An who arranged her accommodation and finally brought her back home. At that time I was only worried about Zi and did not suspect anything. And when Xie An mentioned this matter, he looked relieved. "Luckily I was there," he said. "Otherwise, what would your sister have done all alone in the plague zone?" I looked at Zi's expectant face and helplessly tapped her forehead. "You little rascal. Sister is making fun of me again." Zi laughed and reached out to tickle me. I looked at her bright smile, but my heart felt a little heavy. This sister of mine who loved to laugh so much never smiled so brightly again after Lu Qi died in my previous life. The time quickly passed to night. It was the first time I wanted to go to the night market. Though father was suspicious, he agreed. "You have always been quiet by nature," he said. "It will do you good to go see some excitement." After saying that, he put on a stern face to warn Zi. "No mischief." Zi nodded vigorously like a chick pecking rice, then pulled me and ran out the door. Lu Qi was waiting for us on the next street. "Lu Qi, this is my sister's first time coming to the night market. You must treat her well." Zi nudged Lu Qi's elbow and tilted her chin at him. "Yes, yes, yes," Lu Qi replied, bending down to her and mimicking a respectful tone to tease her. "I am your humble servant for tonight. Whatever you two need, just give the word." Impatiently Zi said, "Hurry up. The show is about to start soon." Zi was clearly enjoying the attention as she hurried forward. The night market was crowded with people. Lu Qi stayed close to us, moving constantly to make sure no one bumped into us. "Lu Qi," I asked casually. "Xie An came to the mansion today with gifts to express his thanks. Did he go to see you?" I watched as Lu Qi looked confused. "Oh, you know, the one who was stabbed with a sword and bleeding a lot that day," Zi reminded him. Only then did Lu Qi remember. "So it's him. That day, I pretended to be Nianyan's servant. It's only natural that he doesn't know my real identity." Lu Qi and Zi did not suspect anything. But while Xie An might not have known in my previous life, he knew clearly in this life. Before I could say anything else, I saw Xie An sitting next to an empty seat in front of the stage. He smiled at Zi. "Miss Su, we meet again." While Xie An was talking to Zi, I also exchanged a few words with Lu Qi. "Lu Qi, Xie An is still a man from outside the family to us. Later you can sit next to him." Lu Qi knew how strict father was and did not ask any more questions. When we took our seats, Lu Qi sat next to Xie An and Zi sat next to Lu Qi. I sat next to Zi, taking the seat on the edge. The play being performed was about a man who was saved by his wife, but later abandoned her, because he looked down on her humble family background. Only the ending was not to my liking. The woman was saved by a nobleman who recognized her as his daughter, making her a noble lady as well. In the end, the husband and wife were reunited, and the broken mirror was mended. But a broken mirror is always broken. When the play ended and we stood up to leave, I turned around and found Xie An looking in our direction through Lu Qi. I could tell he did not like this play either. His brows were tightly furrowed, and he looked uninterested. Most likely, he disapproved of the man in the play. After all, he had loved Zi for 2 lifetimes. I looked away, listening quietly as Lu Qi and Zi discussed their plans for the rest of the night. "I'm a little hungry," Zi pouted, acting coquettishly toward Lu Qi. "How come there's no tea or fruits here at the theater? How about we go eat some cold fragrant balls later?" Lu Qi asked gently. "Great. The cheese cherries there are sweet and sour. Sister will definitely like them too. Xie readily agreed. I wonder if I might have the honor of joining you too? Xie An cut in. My treat. As a way to personally thank you both for saving my life. It sounded like a polite request, but who would dare to refuse a prince? Lu Qi and Xie did not answer immediately. Instead, they both looked at me. I chuckled silently to myself. Yet Xie An had not asked me at all. I did not refuse. Nor did I have the right to refuse. The four of us went to a dessert shop. The night market was bustling, and this shop was the busiest of all. The shopkeeper was too busy to attend to us, so after we ordered our food, he hurried back to the kitchen. With Xie An present, the atmosphere was a little stiff. We sat at a square table, one person on each side. Xie sat between Lu Qi and me, facing Xie An directly. I picked up the teapot to pour tea for everyone. As soon as I finished pouring the first cup, a hand reached out and took it. The movement was smooth and seamless, timed perfectly to the moment I finished pouring. Looking up, I saw Xie An already drinking from the cup. When our eyes met, he put the teacup down almost instantly. Flustered and hurried, he choked on the tea and the cup tipped over. Tea spilled across the table and onto the floor. Cough cough. I'm fine. Don't worry. As Xie An spoke under the watchful eyes of Xie and Lu Qi, he reached out and took my hand. I quickly pulled my hand back. You must have mistaken me for someone else, Your Highness. I am not a servant in your mansion. With that, I moved a little closer to Xie. Only then did Xie An realize his mistake. I apologize for mistaking you for someone else, young lady. That was inappropriate of me. Xie watched the interaction between Xie An and me, covering her mouth and giggling. Xie An looked a little embarrassed. When he met her eyes, a smile slowly spread across his lips. I looked away and just then the shopkeeper happened to bring out our desserts. 2 servings of cold fragrant balls and 1 serving of cheese cherries. There was nothing for Xie An. I had not ordered anything for him just now. Sister, did you forget to ask what His Highness would like to eat? Xie noticed it right away. Why don't you have my serving, Your Highness? I'll order another one, Lu Qi offered, pushing his plate of cold fragrant balls toward Xie An. No need. Xie An declined politely, his gaze sweeping over me with a hint of coldness. The cherries were fresh and juicy, and the sweet steamed cheese was rich and delicious. Truly a rare delicacy. It was a pity that I had never been to the night market in my previous life, and never got to taste such delicious food. I think this Xie An has taken a fancy to you, sister, Xie teased. Where would he find such a beautiful servant as my sister? Xie stuffed a mouthful of balls into her mouth, laughing as she spoke. Eat properly. I shot her a mock-annoyed glance. Don't talk with your mouth full, or you'll choke. But as Xie laughed, she looked at Xie An's retreating figure and grew even more mischievous. Lu Qi, tell me I'm right. Isn't my sister perfect for a gentleman like Xie An? As Xie's voice grew louder, I was afraid Xie An would hear her and quickly covered her mouth with my hand. I watched Xie An's back as he talked to the shopkeeper, silently letting out a sigh of relief. Xie An also ordered a serving of cold fragrant balls. He ate them one bite at a time, imitating Xie's way of eating. After finishing a whole plate of cheese cherries, I looked up and saw that Xie An's plate was empty too. His expression was calm, but the tightness of his jaw betrayed his true feelings. Xie An had a weak stomach. He had always only eaten warm food. Cold fragrant balls were cold and would upset his stomach. Is your highness feeling unwell? Lu Qi asked concerned. These balls have been chilled in the ice cellar. Eating them too quickly can easily cause stomach discomfort. As Lu Qi spoke, he reached out to feel Xie An's pulse. Oh, you can't eat cold food, your highness. Xie exclaimed in surprise. Why didn't you say so earlier? Amidst Xie's exclamations, Xie An forced a smile. His hand under the table rubbed his clothes unconsciously, but he never stretched out his hand to let Lu Qi take his pulse. I'm fine, he said. I always eat a little faster when the food is delicious. Please forgive my rudeness. Xie and Lu Qi both sighed in relief. It's getting late. Ninian, shall I walk you two home? Lu Qi suggested, and the 3 of us stood up. Thank you for your hospitality today, your highness, I said politely, bidding Xie An farewell. But he stood up as well. It's not safe for 2 young ladies to walk alone at night. Why don't you take my carriage back? His words were clearly intended to send Lu Qi away. That's a good idea, Lu Qi agreed without thinking too much. The Su mansion is not on the way to your highness's residence. We wouldn't want to trouble you, I declined, not wanting Xie An to come with us, especially since Xie had already gotten the wrong idea. It's no trouble at all, Xie An insisted. Miss Xie is my savior. Going out of my way is the least I can do. Xie An's eyes fell on Xie, but when they met mine, there was a hint of warning in them. Before I could speak again, Xie agreed first. Sister, don't refuse His Highness's kindness. I'm feeling a little tired anyway. Let's just take the carriage. Refusing again would have seemed too deliberate. I had no choice but to accept in silence. I kept my eyes closed and rested for the entire ride, not saying a word. Xie, however, chatted away non-stop. Xie An responded to every word she said. But unfortunately, Xie did not understand the meaning behind his words and kept steering the conversation toward me. Only when the carriage stopped did I finally relax. Xie jumped out of the carriage right away. I was about to follow her when Xie An stopped me. The carriage curtain fell, separating the two of us from the outside world. Inside the dimly lit carriage, Xie An's eyes shone unusually bright, like the moon, like a lamp, but the gaze he fixed on me was cold. You've come back too, he said, his tone certain. Yes, I replied softly. I made a mistake in my previous life, but I never wronged you, Xie An said earnestly. In this life, I don't want to have any regrets. Let the previous life be nothing but a dream, I said. A long, endless dream. There's no need to cling to it. Very well, Xie An agreed. That is exactly what I wish for too. I lifted the carriage curtain and jumped down. The carriage did not move until Xie and I had walked through the gate. I did not look back. There was no need to look back. What were you whispering about with His Highness just now, sister? Xie asked, glancing back at the carriage. He didn't leave until he watched you walk through the gate safely. I could not help but pinch her cheek, pretending to be angry. If you keep talking nonsense, I won't go out with you next time. Ow, ow, ow. That hurts, sister. Xie pouted, looking wronged. I don't care if it hurts, I said with a smile, letting go of her cheek. But sister, Lu Qi and I have both spent time with him, and we both think he's a true gentleman. Do you really not like him? I don't, I replied firmly. Xie deflated, looking disappointed. Then are you really going to marry that sickly boy? I overheard father talking the other day. The Marquis of Xie An intends to form a marriage alliance with our family. Lu Qi found out that the Marquis' son has been weak since birth. He has to rely on medicine to stay alive every day, and won't live long. Besides, the Marquis' fief is far away in Bayue. If you marry him, we'll never get to see each other again. In my previous life, the only medicinal herb missing from the prescription for the plague was danchao. And according to the medical books I read today, Bayue was abundant in this herb. In the days that followed, Xie An came to the Su mansion every day. Most of the things he brought were the snacks and trinkets that Xie liked. They were also the things I had told him about in my previous life. After all these years, he still remembered clearly that Xie liked the small wontons from the second food shop on West Street, without any green onions added. Such a careful man. Yet he never remembered the preferences of his own children. Every year on our children's birthdays, Xie An either forgot because he was busy with official duties, or gave them the wrong gifts. Our daughter loved the color pomegranate red. But every year he gave her peach pink silk. Our son loved practicing with swords, but every year he gave him writing brushes and ink slabs. Peach pink was Xie's favorite color. Xie was skilled in painting and was once the most talented noble lady in Jingzhou. I looked at the set of writing brushes, ink, paper and inkstone that Xie An had eagerly brought over, then met father's troubled gaze. Tell me, what does that wandering physician have that this prince doesn't? Father sighed, frustrated. She runs off outside every day. How am I supposed to explain this to His Highness? Father had clearly seen that Xie An was interested in Xie, but there was nothing he could do but feel anxious. Xinue, go entertain His Highness. I'm going to go fetch that unruly girl back. Father, please don't be in such a hurry. His Highness is not an impatient man. I tried to calm him down. Sigh, father sighed again. If only Nian Nian were more like you. I could live a few more years in peace. With that, father hurried off with his guards through the back gate. I looked at Xie An, who stood in the distance with an expectant look on his face, and asked the steward to go out and receive him. Eldest young lady. Won't this be a slight to His Highness? The steward hesitated. No, I assured him. His Highness is a man of virtue. Besides, the dressmaker will be here soon to take my measurements. As a bride-to-be, it would be inappropriate for me to receive him in person. Seeing that I was determined, the steward nodded and left. I returned to my room, flipping through medical books while waiting for the dressmaker to arrive. But it was Xie An who came first, before the seamstress who was to make my wedding dress. He stood at the door, startling me so much that the medical book in my hand fell to the floor with a loud thud. When I bent down to pick it up, Xie An pressed his hand on my shoulder to stop me. The Xie An I remembered had always been gentle and courteous. In the decades we had spent together, I had never seen him lose his temper. This was the first time in both my previous life and this one. Nian has not been here these past few days, Xie An said, his voice filled with anger. I heard from the steward of the Su mansion that someone is coming today to take your measurements for your wedding dress. Only then did I realize. He thought that all of this was deliberately arranged by me, that I had deliberately sent Xie away to take her place. So after decades of being husband and wife, this was how he saw me, as such a despicable person. A crisp slap echoed through the room. Xie An turned his head away from the blow, and for a long time he did not turn back. He was probably shocked that I had dared to hit him. My sister goes out every day. Your Highness only needs to ask around to confirm that, I said coldly. Furthermore, she is merely your savior and friend, not anything more. It is highly inappropriate for your Highness to call her by her pet name so casually. I am having a wedding dress made because father has already arranged a marriage for me. You can rest assured, your Highness, I am not marrying you. As the last words left my mouth, all the anger faded from Xie An's face. What did you say? He stammered, staring at me in disbelief. It took him a long time to force out half a sentence. I am already betrothed. I am not marrying you, your Highness, I repeated clearly. Did you hear me? I pointed to the door. This is my private chamber. If your Highness does not wish to leave my sister with the impression that you are a shameless womanizer, then get out of here immediately. This was also the first time I had ever lost my temper with Xie An. Even in my previous life, when he had confusedly run to the gate of the Su mansion and called out my sister's pet name over and over again, I had never lost my temper with him. I had just thought he had forgotten that we had been husband and wife. But now, I wished we had never been husband and wife at all. After that day, I spent every morning handling the affairs of the mansion, and every afternoon going out to play with Xie. I wanted to avoid running into Xie An again. The more I went out, the more I felt that the decades I had lived in my previous life were no different from living in vain. Today Xie even brought me to a newly opened restaurant. Sister, this place specializes in antique soup, Xie explained excitedly. You boil a pot of soup first, then put all kinds of ingredients into it to cook. Lu Qi has eaten it before. He said it's delicious, but it's a little spicy. Lu Qi, my sister can't eat anything too spicy. Remember to tell the waiter not to make it too spicy, Xie reminded Lu Qi, who nodded in response and called the waiter over to start ordering. I leaned back in my chair, enjoying the rare moment of leisure. It felt surprisingly nice to be taken care of like this. A pot of antique soup was brought to the table, boiling away merrily. All the ingredients were raw, served on small plates one by one, and they were quickly brought to our table. Sister, do you think you'll be able to eat things like tripe and beef aorta? Xie asked, piling all kinds of ingredients onto my plate as if I were the younger sister. Since we're already here, why not try everything? I replied with a smile. The texture was crisp and refreshing. Truly a novel taste. It's delicious. But it's not spicy at all, I commented. It was nothing like the tongue-numbing, mouth-burning spiciness Xie had described. You can eat spicy food, sister, Xie exclaimed in surprise. Waiter, bring us some more chili. In the end we added chili 3 times, but I still thought the flavor was too mild. But Lu Qi and Xie were already sweating profusely from the spiciness. Not wanting to torture them any further, I stopped Z from reaching out to ask for more chili. Shopkeeper, your chili isn't spicy enough at all. A voice came from the next table, followed by a nervous voice. Master, you've already added chili 5 times. If you eat too much and end up feeling unwell, how am I going to explain this to the master when we get back? We've come all this way, how can we leave without trying the real thing? The young man retorted, turning to his attendant with a smile. His pale face had gained a hint of color from the spicy food. This young master is just like the young lady over there, the shopkeeper said, stepping between our 2 tables. Since that's the case, why don't you 2 share a pot? That way we won't have to waste any ingredients, and the chili is quite expensive, you know. At the sound of the shopkeeper's words, the young man looked over at us. I don't mind at all, he said with a smile. I just hope I won't be intruding on this young lady's meal. Sure, I agreed readily. And just like that, a pot of bright red, spicy soup was placed between the young man and me. We both picked up pieces of tripe at the same time and dropped them into the boiling soup. 7 seconds up, 7 seconds down, that's the perfect timing, he kindly reminded me. Our chopsticks picked up the cooked tripe at the exact same moment. We took a bite at the same time. The taste was fresh, spicy, and perfectly balanced. Now that's the right flavor, I said with satisfaction. Now that's the right flavor, the young man echoed at the same time. Our eyes met and we both laughed. From your accent you don't sound like you're from Jingzhou, I commented. You have a keen ear, young lady, he replied, lowering his eyes with a smile. I have only just arrived in Jingzhou not long ago. To tell you the truth, I ran away from home. My family arranged a marriage for me. They said she is an excellent young lady. As he spoke, he suddenly started coughing. I quickly handed him a cup of tea. Is it too spicy for you? He waved his hand, shaking his head. No, it's an old illness. I have been weak and sickly since I was born. Many physicians have said I won't live past the age of 20. I am 18 this year. My days are numbered. Though his words were filled with despair, he said them with a smile. I don't want to ruin her life, he added softly, lowering his head. After a long while he looked up again. You are from Jingzhou, aren't you, young lady? I wonder if you could tell me how to get to the prefect's mansion. Even though I had already guessed who he was, I still lost my composure when he actually asked the question. My fingers loosened, and my chopsticks fell onto the table with a loud clatter. Your Highness, I said, looking straight at him. I think I am the young lady you are looking for. The man before me was none other than Jiang Sun, the Marquis of Xie An's son. But I will not agree to call off the marriage, I stated firmly, meeting Jiang Sun's shocked gaze head-on. Why not? Jiang Sun asked, clearly surprised by my response. First of all, this marriage was arranged by our parents. Calling it off abruptly would damage my reputation. Second, the Marquis of Xie An's fief is far away in Baiyue. I have been trapped in the inner quarters since I was a child. I want to leave Jingzhou and see the world outside. Third, from our first meeting today, I can tell that your Highness is a polite, straightforward man. The fact that you are willing to consider the feelings of a young lady you have never even met shows that you are truly a good man. There are many men in this world, but good men are few and far between. Therefore, I will not agree to call off the marriage. Jiang Sun was clearly taken aback by my answer. His eyes darted away, and the tips of his ears turned an unmistakable shade of pink. But I don't have much time left to live, he persisted, still trying to convince me. So I will cherish the time spent with your Highness even more. The wedding date can be moved up as soon as possible. Cough. Jiang Sun tried to cover up his embarrassment with a cough. Miss Su, you must not act on impulse. I am not acting on impulse, I replied firmly. Marrying you is already a great honor for me. Furthermore, your Highness has been saying that your days are numbered. Have you ever considered, which is easier for a woman? Waiting on her husband for many years, or living as a widow for many years? Faced with my question, Jiang Sun did not get angry. Instead, he laughed. You are quite straightforward, Miss Su. My father's betrothal delegation will arrive this month. Before that, I will stay in Jingzhou. You can change your mind at any time. He did not argue with me anymore. Instead, he left me with a promise. He was certain that I would regret my decision. I nodded at him. I am afraid I will disappoint your highness. Jiang Sun and I exchanged a smile. As the soup in the pot continued to boil, we slowly finished all the dishes on the table. In the short time we spent over that meal, we talked about everything. The scenic features and local customs of our two hometowns, our family members and the environments we grew up in. Only the topic of marriage was never brought up again. When we finished eating and were about to part ways, I asked Jiang Sun where he was currently staying. After a simple farewell, I saw Xie An arriving belatedly. Xie and I exchanged a glance, both of us feeling a little awkward. Afraid of being wrongfully accused by him again, I quickly turned to Jiang Sun and spoke up. Would you mind giving me a ride, young master? Before Jiang Sun could reply, Xie cut in. Sister, the prince is here. You're ignoring him. Are you really going to marry that sickly boy? I quickly covered Xie's mouth. Nian, don't talk nonsense. Young master, my sister is being rude. Please don't take it to heart. It's quite all right. She is telling the truth, Jiang Sun said with a smile, not the least bit annoyed. Xie's eyes widened in shock. Only then did she realize that the man in front of her was none other than the Marquis of Jiannan's son. If your highness does not mind, may I take your pulse? Lu Qi carefully observed Jiang Sun's complexion before reaching out his hand to him. I did not know that young Master Lu is also skilled in medicine, Jiang Sun remarked, extending his own hand. However, my condition is congenital. Taking medicine only serves to alleviate the symptoms. He shook his head with a smile, as if he were talking about something trivial. Your highness must not lose heart, Lu Qi reassured him. Your condition is merely a result of not replenishing your vitality properly when you were a child. If you are willing to trust me, I would be honored to do my best to treat you. My master's body is precious. How can we allow you to experiment with random medicines? Jiang Sun's attendant looked worried, speaking up in protest. It's all right. Let him try, Jiang Sun said calmly. My body is already in this state anyway. Jiang Sun's gaze fell on me, then drifted behind me. I turned to see that Xie An had quietly approached and was standing behind me. Don't be discouraged, your highness. Xie chimed in enthusiastically. Lu Qi's medical skills are extraordinary. He would never make such a promise if he were not at least 70 or 80% sure of success. Lu Qi, I'm entrusting my future brother-in-law to you. Now that Xie knew Jiang Sun's identity, she immediately changed her tune, patting Lu Qi on the shoulder. Yes, yes, yes. Lu Qi replied repeatedly, nodding vigorously. The four of us burst into laughter. Only Xie An's face remained grim and unpleasant. And who might this be? He interjected sharply amid our laughter, his eyes darkening as they locked onto Jiang Sun's. Your highness, this is young Master Jiang, my sister's fiancé. Xie answered quickly, stepping forward. Xie An froze for a moment, then forced a smile after a long pause. Surname Jiang. Then you must be the Marquis of Jiannan's son, he said slowly. I have only just arrived in Jingzhou. I will definitely pay a visit to the Marquis when I have the chance. In just 2 short sentences, he made his superior status and position abundantly clear. His tone was filled with overwhelming pressure. Jiang Sun seemed not to notice the underlying threat. You are welcome to visit any time, he replied politely. This antique soup is quite delicious. Please enjoy your meal, your highness. Jiyu, tell the shopkeeper to put the prince's bill on our tab. No need, Xie An interrupted, cutting off Jiang Sun's order to his attendant. Young master is our guest here. It is only right that I pay the bill. Jiang Sun smiled faintly. Unfortunately, we have already settled the payment. Goodbye. Jiang Sun turned to look at me, gesturing for me to follow him. Seeing that I was going with Jiang Sun, Xie quickly grabbed Lu Qi's hand and followed us as well. None of us spared Xie An another glance. Once we were in the carriage, Xie let out a long sigh of relief. Why was Xie An acting so strange today? She wondered aloud. Jiang Sun looked over at me, then suddenly chuckled. Perhaps he had too much vinegar this morning. That would explain his odd behavior. Xie and I both laughed at his remark. Young master, you are quite amusing, Xie said with a grin. I'm sorry for what I said earlier. Please forgive me. Her eyes darted back and forth between Jiang Sun and me, a mischievous glint in them. You were only looking out for your sister. There is nothing to apologize for, Jong-sun replied, not the least bit offended. Young master, you can drop Lu Qi and me off at his medical clinic up ahead. He still has work to do there. Later, I will personally bring you the medicine he prescribes. Xie chattered on excitedly, like a magpie that had just found a treasure. Most of what she said was about me. Young master, you won't believe this, but I only found out today that my sister has such a strong taste for spicy food. I heard that people in Baiwa also love spicy food. It seems my sister will be in heaven after she marries you. Also, my sister is usually so calm and composed, never showing much emotion. But just now, you actually managed to make her laugh. Jong-sun listened quietly, his eyes occasionally glancing over at me. My cheeks suddenly felt hot. I quickly nudged Xie with my elbow, signaling her to be quiet. But the little rascal had already pulled Lu Qi off the carriage before I could stop her. Suddenly it was just Jong-sun and me left alone in the carriage. Even though the carriage was spacious, I felt an inexplicable sense of stuffiness. That was just like Xie, always eager to marry me off as soon as possible. She talks about me like that in front of Xie An too. You. Before I could finish speaking, Jong-sun drew back the carriage curtain. A cool breeze blew in, refreshing my mind instantly. I understand, he said softly. You don't like Xie An. That's why you chose me. Jong-sun finished my sentence for me. That's not the reason, I replied quickly. Xie and Lu Qi saved Xie An's life before. He is in love with her. I knew Xie An before, but it was only a passing acquaintance. If this bothers you, then this marriage. I bit my lip, unsure how to continue. Xie An had indeed been acting very strangely today. It was understandable if Jong-sun did not want to offend him. If I tried to hide the truth from him, it would only make things worse. But I did not dare to take the risk, to gamble on whether Xie would lose Lu Qi again in this life, or whether she would ever be able to accept. We will proceed with the betrothal and wedding as originally planned, Jong-sun said firmly, cutting off my hesitation. I don't know what difficulties you are facing, but I am willing to help you. Jong-sun raised his eyebrows and smiled at me. His pale face was suddenly filled with the vitality of a young man. He did not look like a noble marquis's son at that moment. Instead, he looked like a chivalrous swordsman. Then I thank you in advance, Your Highness. If you don't mind, you can call me Zafang. As an ancient book once said about the virtues of jade, gentle and moist, it embodies the essence of benevolence. A gentleman is like jade and jade is like Jong-sun. Using the excuse that it would be inconvenient for Jong-sun to boil medicine at the post house, Xie invited him to stay at the Su mansion temporarily. Naturally, father was more than happy to welcome him. When father asked Jong-sun why he had come to Jingzhou ahead of schedule, he replied with a smile. I heard there is a divine physician named Lu in Jingzhou. Though he is young, his medical skills are said to be miraculous enough to bring the dying back to life. I came specially to see if the rumors are true. With that said, father had no more reason to stop Lu Qi from coming and going at the Su mansion. When I asked Jong-sun why he had lied, he chuckled and said, a gentleman helps others fulfill their wishes. I rolled my eyes at him, unable to argue with his logic. It was true that Xie looked genuinely happy whenever she was with Lu Qi. Jong-sun knew a great deal about many things and he even enjoyed cooking. However, his cooking was extremely spicy. Father had been eager to try it on the first day, but according to the steward, he had spent the entire night running back and forth to the latrine. After that, father always found an excuse to stay at the prefecture office during meal times, afraid to come home for dinner. Jong-sun was just too enthusiastic, and father was terrified of his spicy cooking. Though Xie and Lu Qi also loved spicy food, they could not stand eating it every single day. In the end, I was the only one left who accompanied Jong-sun for meals. Xie thought I was too quiet, so she always liked to expose my little secrets in front of Jong-sun. I called her a fickle person who was always fawning over whatever brother-in-law she had at the moment. But she retorted with a grin. I was just being impatient before. But now that I've gotten to know him, I think young Master Zhang is much more suitable for you, sister. That Prince Xie always gives you gifts that are completely not to your taste. But young Master Zhang is different. He talks a lot. And his hobbies are just like yours. It's just like me and Lu Qi. By the time she finished speaking, her cheeks were already bright red. You little rascal, I said, pinching her cheek playfully. She pouted and ran off to tattle on me to Jiang Sun again. Young Master Jiang, have you heard of the Jianghu storyteller named Mayfly? I heard he is from Baiyue. My sister absolutely loves reading his stories. It's you who loves them, not me. I only read them occasionally when I have time, I said, pulling Xie back, feeling a little embarrassed. Before Jiang Sun could reply, his attendant Jiyu spoke up first. Mayfly? That's just the pen name my master uses for writing stories. Jiyu, too much talk. Jiang Sun quickly interrupted him, his face turning red with embarrassment. This time it was Jiang Sun's turn to feel shy. Xie and I stared at each other for a moment, then burst into laughter. In my previous life, trapped in the inner quarters as I was, the only pastime I had was reading the storybooks that Xie brought back for me. The Jianghu depicted in Mayfly's writing was vivid and lifelike, with distinct characters and breathtaking landscapes, ranging from snow-capped mountains to vast deserts. Reading his stories made me feel as if I were actually there, experiencing everything firsthand. Unfortunately, after I got married, Mayfly never wrote any new stories again. And I was too busy with the affairs of the inner quarters, taking care of my husband and raising my children, to have any time left for reading. I never expected that Miss Su would enjoy reading Jianghu storybooks, Jiang Sun said in surprise, slicing a cucumber into thin, even strips with his knife. I never expected that you were the one who wrote them, I replied with a smile. You must have traveled to all those places you wrote about, I added, looking at him with envy. I lifted the lid of the pot, and a cloud of steam billowed out, obscuring Jiang Sun's expression from view. Since my life is limited, I didn't want to waste a single moment of it, he said softly. If you want to see those places, I will take you there after we get married. I dropped the noodles into the boiling water, and they bubbled up noisily, drowning out the sound of my pounding heartbeat. He looked up at me, his face flushed from the steam. It's a promise, he said firmly. You must not lie to me, Your Highness. I silently prayed that he would live a long and healthy life. Whether you call me Your Highness or Mayfly, I will never lie to you, he promised earnestly, fishing the noodles out of the pot. He added the various shredded vegetables he had cut into the bowl. Meanwhile, I poured hot oil into a pan and added Sichuan peppercorns, chili peppers, star anise, and other spices. As the spices sizzled in the oil, a rich, fragrant aroma filled the entire kitchen. While I was washing my hands, Jiang Sun asked Jiyu to take the noodles out to the dining room. When Jiang Sun and I arrived at the table, we found that Xie An was already there. I ignored him completely, turning to Jiang Sun and whispering a reminder. Lu Qi said you must avoid spicy food while you are taking your medicine. I specially made your bowl without any chili oil. You must not be naughty and eat anything spicy. As soon as I finished speaking, I noticed that Xie An's face had turned pale. He was sitting at the table, holding the very bowl of non-spicy noodles that I had made specially for Jiang Sun. It looked like he had already eaten quite a lot of it. I thought this bowl was for me, Xie An said stiffly, putting down his chopsticks and looking like he was sitting on pins and needles. In my previous life, I had indeed always taken Xie An's weak stomach into consideration, asking the kitchen to prepare a separate, mild dish for him every time. But that was only in my previous life. Really, Your Highness? You should have told us you were coming, Xie said, arriving just in time and muttering under her breath in annoyance. How could sister have known to make noodles for you? Lu Qi, standing beside her, shook his head at her subtly, signaling her to be quiet. Humiliated by the obvious disdain from the woman he loved, Xie An's face turned an even more unsightly shade of red. I am truly sorry for the misunderstanding. It's quite all right, Your Highness. Please finish eating, I said, cutting him off. I will go make another bowl. I turned and walked away, not wanting to look at Xie An for another moment. I had no desire to be accused again of trying to ruin his chances with Xie in this life. I'll come help you, Jiang Sun said, quickly following after me. You don't have to. I can manage alone, I replied. It's okay. I'm not hungry anyway, Jiang Sun said with a relaxed smile. Besides, I don't really want to be in the same room as that prince either. I've never been one for following proper etiquette anyway. He shrugged his shoulders, walking beside me. Say, why don't we go out to eat instead? He suggested suddenly, nodding his chin toward the door. Xie told me there's a wonton shop nearby that's supposed to be amazing. All right, I agreed with a smile, walking out the door with him. After enjoying a delicious meal, we returned to the mansion, only to find the gate surrounded by a large crowd of people. It was the Marquis of Xie An's betrothal delegation, arrived at last. The courtyard just inside the gate was filled with boxes of gifts, leaving barely any room to walk. Father was in the main hall, chatting happily with the Marquis of Xie An. Xie An was sitting in the seat of honor, his face dark as he drank his tea in silence. Father! Jiang Sun ran forward excitedly, only to receive a sharp knock on the head from the Marquis as soon as he reached him. You unfilial boy! What on earth are you doing here in Jingzhou, sneaking off all the way from home? The Marquis roared. If you dare to call off this marriage, I'll die before you do and wait for you in the underworld. Jiang Sun grinned mischievously, pulling his father aside and starting to massage his shoulders obsequiously. Father, I came here to seek medical treatment, not to cause trouble. I just want to live a few more years so I can filially pander to you, he said sweetly. You ungrateful rascal. If only you were really that obedient. The Marquis snorted, clearly not believing a word he said. Father, even if you don't believe me, you have to believe your future daughter-in-law, Jiang Sun said, winking at me. She supervises my diet and daily routine every single day. Look at me now, I'm so healthy I could even beat a tiger. With that said, Jiang Sun proceeded to perform a boxing routine right there in the middle of the main hall. Even Father, who was usually so serious and stern, laughed until his eyes crinkled with amusement. Xinyu greets your lordship, I said, stepping forward to salute the Marquis of Xie An, feeling an inexplicable chill run down my spine. Oh, no need for such formalities, my dear, the Marquis said, quickly helping me up with both hands. Miss Su, I know my son can be a bit of a handful. Thank you for taking such good care of him these past few days. Wait, that won't do. You'll have to take care of him for the rest of his life from now on. He held my hand tightly in his, as if afraid I would change my mind and run away at any moment. Father, don't scare the poor girl, Jiang Sun said, rolling his eyes. You cheeky brat. How dare you talk to me like that? The Marquis retorted, pretending to be angry. Father and son bickered back and forth, filling the main hall with laughter and cheerful chatter. Only Xie An remained completely out of place, like a dark cloud looming over the joyful scene. His eyes were fixed on me, his expression unreadable. Afraid of causing another misunderstanding, I excused myself, saying I needed to check if Jiang Sun's medicine was ready. But as I turned the corner leading to the kitchen, I collided with Xie An, who was rushing toward me. He grabbed my wrist tightly, pinning me against the wall. His warm breath brushed against my face, but I only felt a cold sense of dread. Why are you marrying him just to spite me? He asked hoarsely, his eyes burning with pain and anger. Spite you? I repeated coldly, staring him straight in the eyes. I don't know what you're talking about. All I know is that these past few days have been the happiest of my life. Before you ever set foot in the Su mansion with your gifts, the Marquis of Xie An's family had already expressed their intention to form a marriage alliance with ours. If it weren't for your mistake in my previous life, I would have married him in the first place. I struggled to pull my hand free, but Xie An only tightened his grip, his fingers digging into my skin. Do you regret it? Xie An asked, his voice trembling slightly. Regret marrying me in your previous life? Don't you? I shot back, refusing to back down. Xinyu, Jiang Sun is not a suitable husband for you. Marriage is a lifelong commitment. You must not make such a decision on a whim, Xie An said, trying to persuade me, his tone brooking no refusal. My marriage is none of your business, I said flatly. You once said that when the dream is over, there is no need to cling to the past. Have you forgotten your own words? Every single day of this life felt light and joyful to me. I had seen the world outside the inner quarters. I had become friends with the author whose stories I loved so much. I might not know what a truly good husband was, but I knew what freedom felt like. Xie An was left speechless, his mouth opening and closing wordlessly. Suddenly, a figure rushed forward and pushed him away forcefully. Xie An was caught off guard, stumbling backward and falling heavily to the ground. I always thought you were a man of honor and integrity, Xie shouted angrily, standing protectively in front of me. But I never imagined you would dare to molest my sister like this. Don't think that just because you're a prince I won't dare to hit you. If you ever dare to pester my sister again, I swear I will never let you get away with it. It was Xie. She pointed her finger at Xie An, her face flushed with rage, shielding me behind her body. Xie An stared at Xie in disbelief, sitting there on the floor for a long time without moving. Sister, let's go. Xie grabbed my hand and pulled me away, leaving Xie An sitting alone on the cold ground. After that incident, Xie An never came to the Su mansion again. Meanwhile, the preparations for Jiangsun and my wedding proceeded in full swing, smooth and orderly. Knowing that father had only 2 daughters, Xie and me, the Marquis of Jianan proposed that we hold the wedding ceremonies twice, once in Jingzhou and once in Baiyue. Naturally, father agreed to this arrangement with great enthusiasm. Under Lu Qi's careful treatment, Jiangsun's health gradually improved day by day. At first, father was afraid that Lu Qi was just a fraud, so he secretly invited other physicians to examine Jiangsun's pulse. Only after they all confirmed that Jiangsun was merely suffering from qi deficiency and physical weakness, and that his condition was not life-threatening, did father finally begin to trust Lu Qi's medical skills. After careful consideration, Xie finally told father about how Xie An had been pestering me relentlessly. Father was furious, cursing Xie An as an indecisive and unscrupulous man. He ordered the steward to never allow Xie An to enter the Su mansion again, no matter what excuses he might make. We all thought that would be the end of the matter. But on the eve of my wedding, Xie An appeared before me once more. He climbed over the wall into the mansion, reeking of alcohol, his face filled with despair and dejection. Ignoring my shocked and frightened expression, he walked straight to the stone bench in my courtyard and sat down heavily. I dreamed of Xiaoyi and Ichuan last night, he said softly, his voice slurred with drink. Xiaoyi and Ichuan, those were the names of our son and daughter from my previous life. Xie An lifted his head, his eyes bloodshot and surrounded by dark circles. We were very happy in our previous life, weren't we? He asked, looking at me with a pained expression. Xinue, these past few days I have been having these dreams constantly. Dreams of our life together in the past. We were so harmonious, so devoted to each other. It was perfect. He reached out his hand trying to touch my face, but I stepped back avoiding his grasp. Xie An lost his balance, falling off the stone bench and onto the ground. But he did not seem to care about his own disheveled appearance. He just lay there on the ground staring up at me. Do you remember when Xiaoyi and Ichuan's birthdays are? He asked, his voice trembling. When did Xiaoyi take her first steps? Did Ichuan call you mother or father first? When Xiaoyi was 3 years old, she had a high fever that wouldn't break. Where were you then? I asked coldly, cutting him off. When Ichuan was 12 years old, he fell off his horse and almost broke his leg. Where were you then? Faced with my pointed questions, the light in Xie An's eyes gradually faded, replaced by confusion and blankness. I laughed bitterly, shaking my head. Xie An, you claim that we were harmonious and devoted to each other, but from our previous life until now, you have never once called me by my pet name. You have never even bothered to ask what it is. But he remembered my sister's pet name clearly, without hesitation. I was the one who took care of our children day in and day out. I was the one who struggled to maintain our marriage alone. Before I call for help, I said, my voice cold and final, I suggest you leave here on your own accord. Jiangsun and I were married as scheduled. Though it was originally a marriage of convenience, Jiangsun looked genuinely happy. The only thing he seemed to be unhappy about was that I would not let him drink alcohol. Drinking was bad for his health after all. When the wedding veil was lifted, I saw my own reflection in Jiangsun's eyes, dressed in a bright red wedding gown, looking radiant and beautiful. For the first time in my life, I saw someone who looked at me as if I were the only person in the entire world. On the 5th day after our wedding, I accompanied Jiangsun back to Baiyue. Lu Qi also came with us, as he still needed to continue treating Jiangsun's condition. As for Xie, father refused to let her leave. He said that since she and Lu Qi were going to get married the following year anyway, she might as well stay with him for a while longer. Yeah, you have always been such a sensible child, father said to me, his voice thick with emotion on the day we left. At first, I was completely against this marriage with the Marquis of Jiannan's family, but when you insisted on going through with it, I couldn't help but worry about you constantly. Never in my wildest dreams did I expect young Master Zhang's health to improve so much, and that he would treat you so well. Finally, I can rest easy knowing you are in good hands. If you ever suffer any grievances in Baiyu, don't hesitate to come back home. Father will always be here to protect you. Father's eyes glistened with tears, but he forced a smile on his face, trying to be strong for me. I nodded, my throat tight with emotion. Don't worry, father. Your daughter will never let herself be wronged. Please don't worry, father-in-law. Zhang Sun chimed in with a grin. I'm just a sickly man. I would never dare to fight with my wife. His joke made everyone laugh, chasing away the sadness of our impending separation. After arriving in Baiyu, I told Zhang Sun that I wanted to start a medicinal herb business. Without hesitation, he gave me the keys to all the Marquis' family storehouses. Afraid that I would not be familiar with the medicinal herb market in Baiyu, he even accompanied me on all my business trips, no matter how tiring they were. I was worried that all the traveling would wear him out, but he insisted that it was good exercise for his body. In our free time, he would take me to the mountains to visit the local herb farmers. The adventures and beautiful scenery we encountered on those trips later inspired his new storybooks. When Xie and Lu Qi got married, my medicinal herb business in Baiyu was already thriving. Zhang Sun's health had improved so much that he was finally able to drink his fill at their wedding banquet. In fact, he drank so much that he got completely drunk. On our way back to our room that night, he held onto my hand tightly and refused to let go. Are you going to leave me now? He mumbled, his eyes half closed with drunkenness. You've built your business successfully. Xie An has stopped bothering you. My illness is cured too. You can't be a widow anymore. On our wedding night, Zhang Sun had already given me a signed divorce paper. He had told me that whenever I wanted to leave him, he would never stand in my way. But now here he was clinging to me like a wronged child. I squeezed his hand gently, smiling at him. I don't want to be a widow, I said softly. Zhang Sun, you have to live a long and healthy life. That way we will have a lifetime together. May you live to be 100 years old and grow old with me. Hashtag Zhang Sun's extra story. Zhang Sun had known since he was a child that he would not live a long life. That was why he had always lived his life freely and without restraint, determined to leave no regrets behind. But when he turned 18, his father suddenly became superstitious and had his fortune told by a soothsayer. The soothsayer claimed that Zhang Sun's destined marriage partner was in Jingzhou, and without consulting him first, his father had already accepted the betrothal on his behalf. Unwilling to drag an innocent girl into his doomed fate, Zhang Sun had packed his bags and rushed to Jingzhou, determined to call off the marriage. Little did he know that the first meal he had after arriving in Jingzhou would lead him to his destined person. Across the steaming pot of antique soup, he and she had talked openly about their thoughts and feelings. Zhang Sun had tried to persuade her to call off the marriage, afraid that he would only bring her misfortune. But she had insisted on marrying him, resolute and unwavering. At the end of that meal, they had encountered Xie An. The man had arrived in a hurry, clearly coming for someone, and his cold, hostile gaze when he looked at Zhang Sun had said it all. So she had chosen him to use as a shield against Xie An, had she not? Though Zhang Sun did not know the full story behind it, his intuition told him that he needed to help Su Xinyue. What he had not expected was that the friend of Su Xinyue's sister would actually be a skilled physician. Lu Qi had told Zhang Sun that his illness was not incurable. It would just take time, and the treatment process would be quite painful. Zhang Sun had not held out much hope. He had taken countless medicines since he was a child, but none of them had ever done him much good. But since the chance of recovery was slim anyway, he thought he might as well give it a try. And so Zhang Sun had moved into the Su mansion. Everyone there had treated him with great kindness and hospitality. Su Xinyue's sister, Su Zi, had immediately taken a liking to him, treating him as her future brother-in-law. Whenever she had the chance, She would tell him all about Su Xinyue's likes and dislikes. It was a pleasant surprise to discover that he and Su Xinyue shared so many common interests, even their hobby of experimenting with cooking. Su Xinyue looked quiet and demure on the surface, but when it came to spicy food, her tolerance was surprisingly high. Sometimes, even Jiang Sun himself could not keep up with her. The day Su Zi had mentioned that Su Xinyue loved reading the Jianghu stories written by Mayfly, Jiang Sun had been caught completely off guard. Little did she know that Mayfly was his own pen name. Ephemeral life, born at dawn and dead by dusk. That was what a Mayfly was. Just like him. As he talked to her, Jiang Sun had gradually realized that Su Xinyue was a woman who yearned deeply for the world outside the confines of her inner quarters. She was like a golden caged bird, beautiful, elegant, possessing all the virtues expected of a noble lady. But people often forgot that deep down she longed for nothing more than freedom. When she talked about the landscapes and adventures described in his stories, her eyes had sparkled with a bright, eager light that had shone straight into Jiang Sun's heart. He had promised her then and there that he would take her to see all those places with her own eyes. For the first time in his life, Jiang Sun had found himself wishing that he could live a little longer. Long enough to accompany her on all her travels, to stand by her side as she explored the world. After their wedding, Jiang Sun's health had continued to improve steadily. At the wedding banquet, countless guests had offered him toasts, but he had refused them all with a smile. "My wife is very strict with me. No drinking allowed," he had explained cheerfully, his eyes scanning the crowd of guests before finally settling on the direction of the bridal chamber. She looked so beautiful. The moment he had lifted her wedding veil, Jiang Sun had felt himself growing drunk, not from the wine, but from the sight of her in her red wedding gown, from the gentle warmth in her bright eyes. If only they could be a real married couple, he had thought. If only he had the time to spend the rest of his life with her. That was what Jiang Sun had thought that night. The days after their wedding had been even better than he could have ever hoped for. Su Xinyue had adapted to life in Baiwa quickly and easily. She had even decided to expand her business to include grain as well as medicinal herbs, saying that these were essential commodities for the people, and that she wanted to be able to help relieve the suffering of the common folk whenever the need arose. But even if she had not given him that reason, Jiang Sun would have supported her decision unconditionally. As for his parents, they were so overjoyed that he had finally managed to marry such a wonderful wife that they were willing to give her everything she could ever want. By the time Su Xinyue's sister got married, her business was flourishing, and Lu Qi had managed to cure most of Jiang Sun's chronic ailments. Jiang Sun and Su Xinyue had returned to Jingzhou to attend the wedding, and this time Jiang Sun had allowed himself to drink to his heart's content. He had gotten completely drunk. And in his drunken stupor, he had a dream in which Su Xinyue had held his hand tightly, smiling at him and telling him to live to be 100 years old, to grow old with her together. The dream had been as sweet as the wine he had drunk. When he woke up the next morning, Jiang Sun had asked Su Xinyue if he had said anything embarrassing while he was drunk. Su Xinyue's cheeks had turned pink, and she had just shaken her head, refusing to meet his eyes. Jiang Sun's heart had sunk, thinking that he must have done something to offend her while he was intoxicated. For the next few days, he had avoided her as much as he could, too ashamed to face her. But then Su Xinyue had marched into his study one day, her cheeks flushed with anger, and torn up the divorce paper he had given her right in front of his eyes. "You told me just a few days ago that you didn't want me to be a widow," she had said, glaring at him. "So why have you been avoiding me these past few days? Do you want me to be a living widow instead?" It was the first time Jiang Sun had ever seen her angry, but instead of feeling nervous or apologetic, he had felt a surge of joy and relief flooding his heart. It had not been a dream after all. Everything he had said while he was drunk had been real. They had become a real married couple at last, and just like the chivalrous heroes in his storybooks, they had traveled together, hand in hand, seeing all the wonders of the world, experiencing all 4 seasons side by side. In the 3rd year of their marriage, a plague had broken out in Jingzhou once again. Lu Qi had stayed behind in the plague-stricken area to treat the sick and dying, and Su Zi had stayed with him, never leaving his side. Su Xinyue had seemed to have foreseen the disaster, for she had already stockpiled large quantities of danchao and other medicinal herbs, shipping them to Jingzhou at the first sign of trouble. Using these herbs, Lu Qi had managed to develop an effective cure for the plague, saving the lives of countless infected people. Lu Qi and Su Zi had become the saviors of Jingzhou's people. Lu Qi, in particular, had been hailed as a divine physician by the grateful commoners. Su Xinyue's father had finally begun to see Lu Qi in a new light, praising his future son-in-law's medical skills to anyone who would listen. In the 5th year of their marriage, Lu Qi and Su Zi had welcomed a baby into their family. Jiang Sun's own father and his father-in-law had both teased him mercilessly, joking that Lu Qi and Su Zi had gotten married later than him and Su Xinyue, yet had managed to have a child first. But Jiang Sun had not cared about any of that. Su Xinyue had told him many things during their trip to Jingzhou to deliver the medicinal herbs, how she had been trapped in the inner quarters in her previous life, married to Xie An, wasting her entire life taking care of her husband and children. Jiang Sun had never wanted that for her. He had always believed that her happiness and freedom should come first, above everything else. In the 6th year of their marriage, Jiang Sun had accompanied Su Xinyue back to Jingzhou to celebrate the new year. When the topic of Xie An had come up during a conversation with Su Zi, she had told them that after breaking his leg 6 years ago, Xie An had fallen into a deep depression and had never married anyone since. "That man has a twisted heart," Su Zi had said with a look of disgust. "Any woman who marries him would be doomed to a lifetime of misery." Afraid that Su Xinyue might still care about Xie An, Jiang Sun had reached out to cover her ears, but she had gently pushed his hand away, smiling faintly. "It's New Year's," she had said, her voice calm and indifferent. "Why are we talking about someone so irrelevant? The most important thing is to cherish the people we have right now." She had turned to look at Jiang Sun then, her eyes filled with nothing but warmth and love for him. "Yes," Jiang Sun had replied, lacing his fingers through hers. "We must cherish the people we have right now. To have a wife like her, what more could a man ask for? May the bright moon shine only for me from now on."